All right, Jesse, I'm on page 52, and I'm going to do example 14.1. It says expand the fraction so that the denominator is 24. All right, so what it's saying is I'm going to change this fraction to where 4 times something is equal to 24. So what is 24 divided by 4? Oh, it's 6. So we're going to have to multiply by 6. And if I multiply in the denominator, I also have to multiply in the numerator. So 6 times 3 is 18 over 24. So now we expanded that fraction so that the denominator is 24. Okay, then the next one, 14.2, says write each number with a denominator of 20. So we're going to go 5. Change that to a denominator of 20. And then the other one is 3/5. We're going to change that to a denominator of 20. All right. So remember, this isn't a fraction. So we need to make it into a fraction by putting it over 1. And then 1 has to be multiplied by what to equal 20? Well, 1 times 20 is 20, right? So if I multiply the denominator by 20, I also have to multiply the numerator by 20. So what is 5 times 20? 5 times 2 is 10, and then add the other 0. So it's 100 over 20. And this next one says to change 3/5 to a denominator of 20. So 5 times what is 20? 4. So if we multiply the denominator by 4, we have to multiply the numerator by 4. So we get 3 times 4 is 12 over 20. Now the reason we're doing this is because you have to have common denominators for fractions. So we're kind of getting in the practice of making different denominators. So now if you look on page 53, it says reduce 30 over 45 to lowest terms. So what's a number that you can think of that goes into 30 and into 45? Okay, so if it ends in 0, 5 has to go into it. And if it ends in 5, 5 has to go into it. So if we divide this by 5, we also divide this by 5. And we'll end up with 30 divided by 5 is 6. And 45 divided by 5 is 9. Now, it's not completely reduced. What goes into both 6 and into 9? Into 6 and into 9. Okay, 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. That is lowest terms. Okay, so then we have one last problem in this lesson. It says reduce 16 over 32 using the greatest common factor of 16 and 32. So let's see, factors of 32 and 16, that would be 1 times 16, 2 times 16, and 1 times 32. So the greatest common factor, oops, that's the greatest common multiple. Scratch that. Factors of these numbers are, of 16 would be 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. And then for 32, it would be 1 and 32. 2 and 16, 4 and 8. So 16 is the greatest common factor. So what it means is we're going to come over here and divide this by 16 and also divide this by 16. Little bear, what are you doing? Don't do that. 16 divided by 16 is 1. 32 divided by 16 is 2, so it reduces to 1/2. You just divide by the greatest common factor, and then you only have to reduce it once. Okay, so now we're going to go over to page 55, lesson 15. It says to write each fraction as a decimal number. So the way you do that is you put this number inside the box. And this number goes outside the box. You put your decimal at the end of the number because there is no decimal. And we're just going to add a few zeros. We're going to start dividing. So 8 doesn't go into 3. So how many times does 8 go into 30? Okay, so 3 times 8 is 24. Subtract, bring down the 6, and another 0. How many times does 8 go into 60? Okay. 7 times 8 is 56. Bring down the 0. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. So the answer is 0.375. All right, the next one is 1/30. 1 over 30. So remember the 1 goes in the box, the 30 goes outside the box. Put your decimal on the 1 and bring it straight up and add some zeros. Okay, so 30 doesn't go into 1. 30 also does not go into 10. How many times does 30 go into 100? 3 times 30 is 90. Oops, yeah. Subtract. Again, how many times does 30 go into 100? 3. It's just going to keep repeating. So because it's the same number that's repeating, we can just write it as 0.03 with a bar over the 3 because it's going to keep on repeating, and that's called a repetant. Okay, when it repeats, it's called a repetant. Okay, next, page 56. It says write each fraction as a decimal number. First one is 3/10. Okay, well, if you remember from the decimal system, that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. So 3/10 is just 0.3, isn't it? If you recognize that, you don't need to divide it out. If you don't recognize it, then put the 3 in the box, 10 out here, put your decimal, bring it straight up, add a 0. So how many times does 10 go into 30? 3 times. And there it is. So 0.3, either way you're going to get 0.3. 2/5. Okay, so in the decimal system, that's a 10, that's 100, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So there is a way that we can multiply something to turn this into a decimal value. 5 times 2 is 10, right? So if we multiply that by 2 over 2, it'll be 4 over 10. And now you should know that that's 0.4. If you don't remember to do that, you can always put the 2 in the box and divide it by 5. You'll get the same thing. Okay, so the next one is similar. It's 3/20. Remember, this is the hundredths place. And 20 multiplied by 5 will be 100. So we get 100 here, and 3 times 5 is 15. So this would be 0.15. Again, if you don't remember to do that, you can always divide. 20 goes into 30 once, and 20 goes into 100 5 times. So either way, you're going to get 0.15. It's just so much faster if you remember to do it this way or this way instead of having to long divide it. All right. On the bottom of page 56, it's round 42.617, and that bar's going over the whole 617 to the nearest millionth. Okay, so we can write that 617 as many times as we want, can't we? Because it's just going to keep repeating. And now what we need to do is count. That's the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths. So this is the one we're going to round to. So we have to look at this one. So is this 6 big enough to change that? That's funny. Big enough to change that 7. Yes, 5 and bigger changes it. So this will be 42.617618. And everything else gets chopped off. So when you have a Ripitan like this, remember, you can write it out as many times as you need to. All right, a couple more problems on this lesson on page 57. It says write 0.041 as a fraction. We'll count. It's the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths. So the denominator will be 1,000, and you write this number in the numerator. So it's 41 over 1,000. 0.35. That's the tenths, hundredths. So the denominator's 100, the numerator's 35. But when you look at 35 and 100, you should recognize that both of those numbers are divisible by 5. So if you divide this, hello? Oh, okay, Patty and Patty. Hi. Gosh. Holy crap. So that's the window in the office or in the kitchen? Lord, he could have killed himself getting in that window. What an idiot. So he's been living in there again. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Well, we're gonna